Welcome back to Healing Reflections with Dr. Lauren Pitts Bounds and Makayla Nobles. We have been enjoying these sessions. I'm trying to tell y'all, it's the way, I said it so many times, I be taking notes, mental notes and nuggets. So it's such a great opportunity just to sit here and to learn and to be able to reflect. And I have been enjoying these conversations with you. And I am just so glad that you agreed to join us and continue this opportunity in these segments. But how are you doing today?
I am well, enjoying spring and you know, our bipolar Texas weather.
Yes.
I'm glad it's spring again.
Listen, it definitely has. It's went from cold to hot and from hot to cold. I'm just like, what has been going on? But we have a great topic. Woo! We have a good topic coming today.
Yes.
The topic we'll be discussing is, when do you know it's time to walk away? Now, in honors of Women's Month, we've been dedicating these segments to women. And also, I feel like, but even though we've been talking about women, men can take these conversations seriously too.
Oh, absolutely.
And know when to walk away from a situation. Especially remember months back we were talking about, we were asked that question, why do women choose to stay with a toxic situation rather than choosing a healthy? We're going to get into that a little bit. But let's start off and jumping into recognizing unhealthy patterns, understanding when those red flags coming up, not just in relationships, but sometimes in friendships, there's unhealthy situations. Sometimes on our jobs, there's unhealthy situations. So what is your take on that? How do you recognize those?
Well, first and foremost, you have to be open and receptive to recognizing them, right? Take the rose-colored glasses of life off and acknowledge the fact, first and foremost, and I'm going to tie this to a couple of sessions ago that we had, where when we were talking about the relationship litmus, right? The key thing that people have to be mindful of is that each of us is the common denominator in all of our relationships. That part, right?
Talk about it.
We are the common denominator in all of our relationships. So if you keep finding yourself in toxic relationships, if you keep finding yourself in broken relationships, if you keep finding yourself in contentious and argumentative and combative situations, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, not really, but look in the mirror, right? Because there's something going on within you that is causing that energy to make its way to you. So you have to do that personal inventory. You have to do the self-check. And then when it comes to recognizing those patterns, it's real simple, right? If every relationship that you've been in ends with lies and deception and heartbreak and the whole 9 yards, ask yourself, where am I missing it? What am I ignoring? That's what I say to my clients, right? It's like, okay, you know, somebody comes in a session, well, Dr. Pitts, you know, everybody I've ever been in a relationship with has cheated on me. And I say, respectfully, what's wrong with you? Are you ignoring the fact that the person is insanely jealous? Are you ignoring the behavior that is indicating that they're insecure? Are you ignoring the fact that they may be extremely anxious? You have to look at patterns of behavior. And believe it or not, Makayla, it's evident in literally every walk of life. How do they act in traffic? How do they act when you go out to eat and the waiter or waitress messes up the order or the food comes out wrong? How do they talk about and interact with their parents and their siblings and people that they call friend? All of those things are indicators. Take the rose-colored glasses off, and when people show you who they are, believe them, and stop rushing to be sexually intimate with people because it takes time. Love at first sight, my foot. What do you know about somebody just you saw them? Lust at first sight.
That's it.
You don't know them. How can you love them? Just saying.
That lust at
Just
first.
saying.
That lust at first sight, I had to realize that too, because especially growing up, it's like, I'm so in love, I'm so in love. Don't know nothing about love, don't even understand what love really takes.
No, what's love got to do with it?
What, Tina Turner all over again.
Right.
But no, you said so many things, like recognizing, and like I said, you have to take inventory, and going back to what you gave us, that tool of making the 3 columns, your needs, your wants, and what's your deal breakers. You have to do that. And when you see the consistency, but take that, but look at and put the 3 columns with but not tie the behavior to it.
That's right.
That's what you got to do. And then with me, it took I'm a hard-headed person. Like I always tell people, I'm one of them children that you got to pinch.
You the or else kid.
I'll be like, I'll be telling people, I'm that child of God that God got to pinch and twist to get my attention. Sometimes, but like, this hard, but like I just like I gotta see for myself. Somebody could tell you all over and over and over again, don't need to do that. You need to leave. It's a red flag. You can see it over and over again, but it's not until you've like the lights come off. Like say when you take those glasses off, you're like, oh, that's what that meant. That's what this is. Oh, now you're able to going forward, you see it. But I hate the fact that for me, I had to go through so many hard things. And like, if I just had listened the first time, I wouldn't have to go through all that type of things. And I want to stick with this, like, why do we have to go through it the hard way first instead of just seeing it for what it is the first time?
You don't have to, you choose to. And there's part of the problem that people, I believe, don't give enough credit to. We act as if we have no power, and we have a lot of power, right? So I tell people, in order for you to be able to break the negative cycles and patterns that exist in your life, you first have to be honest about them. You cannot conquer and confront something that you won't acknowledge. So I had to take responsibility and accountability for the fact that when I was younger, I was looking for love in all the wrong places. I had to take responsibility and accountability for the fact that I had mommy and daddy issues that presented themselves in the form of fear of abandonment and fear of rejection. I had to take responsibility and accountability for the fact that I was gravitating to boys and men that validated the low opinion that I had of myself. I had to take responsibility and accountability for that so that I could appropriately confront it to conquer it. But people want to blame everything and everybody else for the state of how they function. No, you can't do that. There are explanations for why we think, feel, function, and navigate life the way that we do, but there's no justification. The justification is you chose to do this. I've said before, and I'll say it again, from birth to 17, we're at the mercy of our parents. But once you turn 18, your ability to make decisions from a more autonomous level exponentially goes up. People have to learn how to take responsibility and accountability for their choices, because life will hand you a deck and you're gonna be forced to live with those choices. Old people used to say, you made that bed, now lie in it. So circling back to what you said about the why is because people choose to navigate life from a place and space of rebellion rather than wisdom. There's an old saying, and I'm sure everybody that's tuned in has heard it, experience is a good teacher. Right. Wisdom is learning from the mistakes of others. How many times you got to get burnt before you be like, oh, that burns? The technical definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again and expecting a different result. There's a whole lot of people in the world that aren't insane, but their behavior suggests that they are. Right. It's choices.
Yeah. And the only thing is, like, you're choosing, like you said, wisdom, learning from others' mistakes. And for me, it took a while to get there. And like I said, I was first, and I'm being completely honest, I'm honest every time we get on this camera. And for me, I came from a thing of rebellion. I just didn't want to be told what to do. You ain't gonna tell me how I'm gonna approach a situation, how I'm gonna deal with it. Let me figure this out on my own. But I'm grateful that I had those people that were wise, was letting me know, hey, I did this already. I got to dance. So now that even though I'm only 25, but even now that I have I have a younger sister, and I also have, people that I just talk to on a daily basis that, that be telling me what they're going through, and I've been through that. I say, hey, I got a trophy in that type of dance. So let me tell you, like, you don't want to do it. And then you get frustrated trying to tell them about the red flags that you could clearly see it, but they don't see it, and you get mad when they be like, well, you're just jealous or anything else like that. And then receiving the backlash of telling the truth, even though the truth hurts, receiving that and being mad like, oh my goodness, you don't get it. But then for me, I had to remember, this is the same thing that this person felt trying to tell me. the situation. This is exactly what they went through dealing with me. So practicing the grace that was given to me was hard for me to give it to other people. And that's something I struggled with for a while, because I'm just like, why don't you get it? Like, I've been here, I've seen it, I've done it, got a reward in it. I'm trying to help you spare what I had to go through. But it's just like, and God had to really hit me on my head with it. He's like, this is the same thing that I've dealt with you. This is the same thing your mom had to deal with you. What your dad had to tell you. This is the same thing was told to you, but you didn't want to hear it. You wanted to go through it on your own. Now you know what it means.
How's that working out for you?
Ooh, I mean, it works. I mean, now I can say I've done very much better with giving grace and letting people make their own, even though it's hard to see it. And that's why this topic, when to know to walk away, is so important to me, because most times I've stayed the course with a person, trying to get them to see it, trying to like, I'm hitting the brake for you. I'm pulling the emergency brake for you, because I don't want you to go through it, or I don't want to see you hurt. But it comes a time where you know, hey, I love you, but I gotta love you from a distance, because you're not getting it. And I feel like with women, that's hard to come to that place, walking away from something when we know we've done all that we can do, as far as be there for them, talking to them, giving them guidance. It's only so far you can go with a person. The person has to make the choice. And remember, we were having a conversation, like, healing is a choice. You have to choose to do it yourself. So coming to that, and then also shifting into what we're getting ready to talk about, recognizing those red flags and seeing those indications, like, okay, this person's just simply not getting it, and being okay with walking away from that. How do you even approach something to that nature, and then feeling okay and not feeling the guilt of walking away? Because you know, people love to play the guilt trip with you on, oh, you're just giving up on a person, you don't care about me, you were never really my friend. Getting to that and being okay with, hey, whatever you say, I'm good, because I made peace with it. That takes a lot.
So I'm about to make your head pop off.
Ooh.
And I'm going to apologize in advance for how I present this strategy and intervention. If I were to surmise everything that you said to this point, I would say this. Part of what is going to be instrumental in helping people to break all of those cycles of banging their head on a brick wall and blood in their eyes and hemorrhaging all over every aspect of their life because they have to make all the mistakes themselves, Makayla, that's rooted in identity. So when you said, you know what, I'm grown, I can make all my decisions, whatever, you basically were identifying as an adolescent, for example, is I can do this. I don't need you to tell me what to do. I'm capable. Your identity in that moment was that of a mature, responsible adult. But developmentally, your outcomes clearly demonstrated to you that you weren't there.
Right.
You have to look at the role of how you are identifying is contributing to your decision making. Think about this. I tell people the past 2 weeks I've been doing this activity with my clients, certain ones, where I tell them I'm going to walk you through how to define your dash. Dr. Pitts, what's defining your dash mean? When you go to a funeral, on the program or on the memorial card or whatever the case may be, you have the date that somebody was born and you have the date that they passed away. What's in the middle? The dash.
Right.
What does the dash symbolize? Their life. You get to decide every minute of every day of your life what your dash is going to be. You don't have any control oftentimes of the things that happen to you or the things that people say to you, but you always have control of your response, defining your dash. You get to decide every minute of every day of your life the caliber of woman that you want to be or the caliber of man that you want to be. What type of daughter do you want to be? What type of partner do you want to be? What type of mother do you want to be? What type of professional do you want to be? Think about all of the hats that you wear as a man or a woman and give yourself permission to actually put your finger on the pulse of the personality and the behavioral characteristics and traits that you want to embody. And then, don't be mad at me, don't kill the messenger. And then You're going to create an exhaustive list of all of the positive and negative personality and behavioral characteristics and traits that your parents or primary caregivers had. And then you're going to go back and you're going to circle all of those characteristics and traits that you also possess. What that's going to do for you is it's going to illuminate your dash, because now you get to decide, for example, from a professional standpoint, okay, what are all of the characteristics and traits that I want to embody as a professional? Okay, what is going to do that? Do I want to win an Emmy? Do I want to win a Pulitzer Prize? Do I want to win? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And it's going to start to define your dash. Now, Makayla, when Makayla makes a decision, is this decision in alignment with my dash? If it's not in alignment with how you wish your dash to be defined, why on earth would you make that decision? How you define your dash is going to serve as an accountability anchor for you, as a value-based anchor for you, and it's going to be instrumental in helping you to be more in alignment with your authentic self.
You said something like what it comes with the identity, and just like coming from my own personal perspective with coming back into it, I had to, like I said, do the hardest thing was like look at myself. Because, and I'm not gonna lie, I sat there and I played like, you know, oh, because I didn't have this in my life, or because I went through this, that became my like, but you cannot blame somebody else for what you choose to do.
Say it again.
You cannot blame other people for what you make the decision, conscious decision, and your right mind decision to do. And
Right.
like you said, when you turn 18, it's not, the ball is now in your court.
Right.
So for me, it was okay. When I started saying I was grown at 16, but you know, you think because you're getting older, you know, you start feeling, you know
everything.
dig everything.
Can't nobody tell you nothing.
Listen, and I went to a high school when you got to be a junior, you could leave the campus. So at this point, I was entering my junior year. So the school said I'll practically like I can go and come as I please. So I would leave the campus and everything else like that. But even though with that, because my mom kept telling me, don't leave the campus. You don't need to leave the campus. You have lunch at school. I'm like, but I don't want to eat their lunch. And then what if the school says I can do it, then I can do it. But with that situation, it took me having to have like a life-threatening experience for me to understand, okay, I don't need to leave this campus, because we were in lockdown and me and my friends were coming back from getting something to eat. And I forgot like the whole situation, but I know it's like, we were walking back and what was happening, the incident, they were coming down the street we were walking. So it's only by the grace of God that I got back to the school and I got there safely. Right. But even with that taught me, okay, you don't know everything. When mama knows something now, she knows something. So even with that just made me be more careful. It's like, okay, if I am gonna leave the school, because I used to leave the school and not tell her. But she will always see it because she's like, why did you spend X amount of money here? Because when I got my bank account, because I was still young, it had to be underneath her. Right. So she used to see like, what, you spending X amount of money at Family Dollar? You spending X amount of money?
And you're supposed to be in school.
And you in school during this time? I'm like, I had lunch. She was like, but why are you leaving the campus though? And I told you not to leave it. So at this point, it became like, okay, if I am gonna leave the campus, now I need to ask. Even though it's like, well, you're 17, like she ain't gonna know. I said, but at this point, it became for my decision. I said, if something happens to me and she's under the impression that I'm at school, there's always an every, and she always taught me, you always want to give your parents a starting point. God forbid anything happens. You always want to let them know, the last time I heard and seen her, she was at here with X amount of people and they were going here. Now now from there, the police gonna have to put together the pieces, but at least you give them a point A. So at that point, that became my mindset. And even as an adult, I'm just like, I always give her a point A and a point B and a point C, because I be calling like, hey, we still here. We gonna leave at this amount of time. But saying all that to say, I made a choice to either do better or to continue doing what I needed to do, because I wanted to keep that illumination of, you cannot tell me what to do. And getting to that point, it's a hard thing to do, because you have to be accountable. And accountability is not something that everybody want to do. Right. Or people don't understand how to fully do it. Well, I'm not gonna say they don't understand. They do. They just don't want to do it to the fullest extent. They take certain accountability where it doesn't make them have to look at themselves in a more deeper way than they need to. Because taking accountability, you got to go to the root, like you said, put your finger on the pulse. Right. And even now as an adult, because where I want to go, and because certain things and my morals and my principles and what I believe in, and me playing in the part that I am a Christian, certain things I just cannot and I will not compromise on doing,
Right.
because of where I want to go, my end goals, what I want to impact, what I want my legacy to look like. So I've come to the point where it's like, hey, that may be cool for you, but it ain't cool for me.
Right.
Listen, you do you, and I'm gonna do me, because I'm the only person, when it comes down to where I gotta go, where my soul gotta spend eternity, what I gotta answer to, I don't need it to be tied to nothing else than what I made the conscious decision to do.
Right.
And moving into recognizing those red flags, the common red flags that people see, does he cheat? Does he lie? How many times does he slip up? Looking at the people in your life. But I feel like there's some hidden red flags that are there that are very much overlooked. So coming from a professional standpoint, what are those red flags that you see that women overlook?
Well, all the ones that you said, I've been doing this work for a really, really, really long time, and I can honestly say that I have not ever encountered a client that I'm working with based on relational issues, particularly in a romantic context, where when I ask that question, did you ignore any red flags? The answer 100% of the time has been yes, right? So what red flags present in your relationship could look very different in mine. I think that where people so frequently miss the mark is they're so pressed to be in a relationship. They're so afraid of being by themselves. They're so afraid of growing old alone that they believe the cognitive distortions that tell them, oh, well, I'm going to be, with over 7 billion people or whatever it is on earth, I'm not going to find a good person, right? So those rose-colored glasses, they navigate life with this fantasy reel, and they ignore so many obvious things. They don't take time. Relationships take time. Simply put, you need to be able to experience people in as many seasons of their life as you can. And I'm not talking about seasons in the context of the weather. I'm talking about seasons in the context of experience, right? So how does the person behave when things don't go their way? How does the person behave when somebody frustrates them? How does the person behave when they feel as though somebody has deceived them? How does the person behave when they feel betrayed? How does the person behave when they're scared? How does the person behave when they're sick, or fill in the blank, right? Those are everyday opportunities to pay attention. My husband and I were talking earlier today, and we were talking about preparation for this conversation, and I was telling him how many years ago I was talking to a guy, and I had only seen him in person a couple of times, right? And the dates were great. And at the time, I was living out of town. So I was coming in town, and it was going to be a first little trip together. Nothing physically intimate had gone on between us or anything like that. And he picks me up at the airport, and I honestly felt safe enough from the conversations and everything. I didn't get any sense that I wouldn't be safe if I spent the night in his home and slept in his guest room. Michaela, when I walked into this brother's house, I was like, well, did an atom bomb go off in here? And I wasn't even a therapist back then.
Wow.
But there was so much chaos and the house was filthy. It was absolutely, positively filthy. It was disgusting. And I'm like, oh, he's been fronting. There's more to him. And I wasn't a therapist then. There's more to him that meets the eye. So it still ended up, but now my guard is up, because I'm like, something's off here. And it was so apparent to me that after we got back in town, I got to the airport and I got back. I was living in Florida at the time, and I got back in Florida, and I'm like, never again. Because that was an indication to me. That was major. To have that type of disarray in your life spoke volumes to me. But you know what? You know how many women would have been okay with that because he drove a really nice car? He drove a Jaguar. He drove the Vandenplas. I was like, oh my gosh. He's got the top of the line Jag. He's got to be amazing. You know what? I'll clean his house. The devil is a liar.
What?
No, something wrong with this brother. Something's wrong with him. And it's evident in his environment. So it's not the major stuff. Did he yoke you up? Did he grab you by the arm because he thought that somebody at the restaurant was flirting with you? There's blatant stuff that people ignore. But it's the subtle everyday stuff, Makayla. The subtle everyday stuff. Did he just make fun of that handicapped person at the mall? Did he just call his mom everything but a child of God? Did he address his baby mom that he picked and decided to sleep with? Did he just call her everything but a child of God? Does he have kids all over the place and not taking care of any of them? But you gonna be the one, you gonna have a baby, and he gonna take care of you and yours, cause you gonna love him right. Girl, sit down.
Ooh.
Stop it, I say. Stop it.
Ooh.
Stop being so pressed and desperate to not be alone that you allow all of this craziness to come into your life and wreak havoc and destroy your sense of self. Stop it.
Ooh. I'm trying
Sorry.
Ooh.
I apologize. Didn't I apologize before?
Listen.
I apologize before I said it.
Listen, being real, that's what we need.
saying.
Listen, you got to tell the truth. You got to be able to say what needs to be said to make you look at yourself. It's the way when you would say it, I say, yes, say it. It's the way I would be like, clock it, yes. Because, getting to that point, I've already said it so many times. I can do bad all by myself. But coming to that point wasn't easy. Right. And I always tie this to play. And I'm like, God knew exactly what he was doing because I got saved, because I grew up in church, but I really got saved at the age of 20.
Okay.
So you got to think about this. From that time, I was in and out of relationships. But I had only 5 real relationships that went past 6 months. That, to me, that defines a relationship. If we talk and everything, we don't go nowhere, that's not a relationship. We at that point, they say it's courting. That's what it was. I said, that's not a relationship. My term is like, okay, that's a situation. We were talking, but it didn't go nowhere. But talking about relationships where I'm committed and I've been with you and I stuck the course with you, it's only been 5. That's went past the time of 6 months, and my longest one was 3 years. But when I first got saved, all that stopped. God put me straight into isolation, and I'm just like, hold on, wait a minute, time out. I wasn't. I know what I signed up for, but I wasn't. I'm thinking like,
this gonna look and feel a little different.
You gonna come in and bring me somebody that's gonna help me with that, but no. And I've been in isolation at that point. But at that point, God had to teach me how to be okay with being by myself.
That's right.
Being by myself, where it's just me and him. Right. Being by so much. I learned so much as being by myself. And now going on, it's getting ready to be 8 years in August. I'm just like, I've learned so much about myself. I've identified the wrong thing, what's toxic. I've went through the changes, the seasons, going through the ups and the downs, learning what it means to have much, learning what it means to have less. But saying all that, I've learned that I am okay.
Can I pause you there for a moment?
Go ahead.
There's so many, and it's not just women, it's men too. There's so many people out here, Makayla, that not only are they not okay being alone, they have no idea who they are. They are literally experiencing an identity crisis, and because they're experiencing an identity crisis, they can't even envision what it would be like to just sit alone in the silence of, and I say this jokingly, right? To be able to just sit with the sound of their own breathing, to be able to sit with the sound of their own eyelashes blinking, to be able to sit with the sound of themselves sniffling or whatever the case may be. People are coming into relationships with so much unfinished business, with so much baggage from their parents and from previous relationships and from their own poor choices that they just don't take the time that they need. So what ends up happening is you keep finding yourself in this broken cycle of conflictual relationships because you have 2 strangers coming into relationships. You don't know who you are, he doesn't know who he is, and y'all coming into a relationship together. Well, if you don't know who you are, how are you possibly going to allow him to see the real you? You haven't taken the time to find out who she is. Facts. So now you've got representatives navigating this relationship and it's not working. People are afraid to identify who they really are. because they've navigated life as their representative for so long. Well, what if people don't like me? Well, what if people reject me? What if I don't have any friends? What if nobody loves me? Stop. Take the time to get to know you. And when you take the time to really get to know you, then you're better equipped to really identify what it is you really need, what it is you really want, and what it is you are not going to deal with. But if you continue to navigate life, love, and relationships in your identity crisis, you're going to continue to yield the results of that identity crisis because you're behaving as someone who is not authentic. So how can you have an authentic lived experience?
Oh, I'm trying to tell you, you got to be okay. We done said it last episode. You have to be okay with being by yourself.
Yeah.
And now you have to be okay with learning to walk away. It has to be that decision. You have to come to it.
Yeah.
Because if not, you're gonna, like I said, you're gonna hemorrhage and bleed all over your life. And you're gonna wonder why is so much chaos? Why is look at yourself.
Yeah.
You have to do that. But switching and gearing into this next one, this is gonna be a heavy one. I'm like, whoo.
Okay.
Unhealthy attachments and identifying unhealthy attachments versus toxic obligation, understanding the two and realizing they're different. They're in their own categories. You're attaching to you something that you know is not healthy,
Right.
but you're choosing to stay attached to it. Like you said, just to say, I have somebody.
Right.
And then
Piece of man better than no man at all.
what? I'm like, I'd rather be alone with a dog and a goldfish and be happy. You understand me?
Dog and a goldfish.
And a goldfish. Because a dog, the goldfish I got a lifelong companion. I mean, dogs, they die too. But at least I'm going to have me somebody, a dog or something. But being okay with, even if I don't have a dog, even if I just have a goldfish or no pets,
Right.
I'm okay.
Even if you just have you.
Listen, walking in the house, being able to just kick my shoes off, lay on the couch and be like, I'm good. But identifying those two different things, choosing to be attached to something that you know is unhealthy, and then toxic obligation. You know it's not healthy, so you're not wanting to be attached to it, but you feel obligated to still be in it. Just because for the simple fact this person needs me or you think they need you.
On Sunday, Pastor preached when a superhero loses his or her power. Why you have to rescue somebody? That's your unfinished business. That's your baggage. Why do you feel the need to fix people? Do you need that external validation? Do you only feel good about yourself when you're rescuing someone? Are you really rescuing the person, or are you rescuing your wounded inner child? Just saying. So there is no obligation. How are you obligated? How are you obligated to stay in a relationship with another person that's hurting you? Where's the obligation to that? That's not an obligation, that's a choice.
That is.
For better or for, this is what I said when it came to my first husband. For better or for worse, in sickness and in health, until death do we part, does not mean that you get to kill me. That's not what that means. So, am I obligated? I'm obligated to honor my marriage vows. I'm not obligated to be your doormat. I'm not obligated to be your punching bag. I'm not obligated to be your fool. That's why learning one's true identity is so important, because when you know your worth, you won't even enter into those situations. When you know your worth, you won't even be inclined to stay in those situations. Oh, I don't want to be another person that abandons them. And that's your problem. Why? Why is that your problem?
Listen.
Stop being a superhero. Take the cape off, take the bracelets off, take the shoe. Stop it. Stop. People have a responsibility to heal. Healing is an individual process. It is psychological and spiritual processes that will be instrumental in helping the individual to be a stronger, healthier, better version of themselves. You can't heal another person. Can relationships be a healing agent? Absolutely they can, but not when you're the source of somebody else's pain. So stop. Stop. Stop needing to rescue folks, because are you really rescuing them or are you rescuing yourself? And you got to be honest. Healing takes honesty.
You do.
Healing takes accountability. So that toxic obligation, we're going to throw that one out the window, because you're not obligated to entertain toxicity. That's a choice. Call that what it is. And with regards to the attachment piece, I tell folks, take the time to understand what your attachment style is. There's 4 of them. There's secure attachment, there's anxious, preoccupied, insecure attachment, there's dismissive, avoided, insecure attachment, and there's fearful, avoided, insecure attachment. Learn what your attachment style is so that you can have a better understanding of why you're attaching the way that you are to people, whether it's romantically, friendship, familiar, or whatever the case may be.
The 4 attachments. Listen, I need to go home and do some more inventory. Like, healing is a constant thing. And I did a talk last year when I wrote my book and everything. They were asking me how I described healing for me. I said, you're never going to be fully complete until either Jesus comes back or you pass away. I said, I feel like my healing is like, I'm constantly healing. I said, every time, every new season, you learn something more about yourself that was there. And I describe it as a dressing room. I said, we're constantly pulling on and taking off. I call it God's dressing room. I said, he's constantly pointing, this is out, this is wrong, you need to go back and revisit this. So you're constantly taking stuff off. You're constantly putting things on, because you're an old creature, but when you come into Christ, you're a new creation. So you're taking stuff that's old that you didn't know that was there, because until the light is shined on it, you don't know that you're doing it. So for me, I described my healing as, I'm healed and I'm delivered in one area. I said, but I'm never fully healed to the point where I don't need to look at myself anymore, because I'm not perfect. I'm striving for perfection, but I'm not perfect. And I'm working on becoming a better and a healthier human being every single day. So every day I'm choosing to heal. Every day I'm choosing to identify what's wrong. Every day I'm choosing to look at the mirror and say, you know what, I can always improve in this and this and that area. So that's how I describe it. But moving into the practical steps, and I feel like this faith and practical steps can go hand in hand. And I want to give you a time to share what practical steps of faith, how it comes into play for you. But with me, learning when to walk away, recognizing those red flags, recognizing the unhealthy attachment, recognizing toxic, and making a choice of, well, I've seen all that, now what do I do? For me, what it took is being quiet. Like I said, I still, even though I say it's my single season, but really it was isolation. And you got to think, during this time, I didn't have that many friends either, because I had to walk away from what I knew to be true, what I was okay, what I identified with. I had to go by myself to learn now who I am in this new identity. So for me, it became of getting by yourself, having that time to really be vulnerable. And that was not a pretty situation there. Listen, we have tissues in here. I said, but you talk that first, them first few years was so hard for me. It was so hard for me, but it was so beneficial, because God showed me so many things that I didn't know I was carrying, that I thought I was over, that I thought I was good with. But understanding who I was and now who I am now, the new me wouldn't even dare go back to and deal with, not even on the slightest, on my worst day, I wouldn't go through it. I'd be so quick to cut people off and be like, listen, and it's like, you just so, and they say, oh, you're a no nonsense person, you're very blunt. Or they say, why you gotta act hard? I said, honey, this is not an act. I said, this is who I am. I said, because I've went through it. I said, why would I set myself up to be hurt? Why would I even compromise my integrity, my hard line of just to say that I'm cool, I'm talking to somebody? No, I'm good. So when you come to, like I said, the first thing I did was be quiet. Take that time to steal away, get away from everybody. What that looks like for you is different. But for me, it took is getting away, willingness to be able to do the hard work, and to really look at myself like, you know what, this gotta stop. This gotta making that hardest choice, and then willingness to change, but willing to do the work. You gotta have somebody that's gonna be on your case like white on rice. That's gonna not let off when you say, hey, this is what you said you wanna do. 9 times out of 10, it's therapy. 9 times out of 10, it's just finding somebody that's on the journeys with you, but they're a little further along, that can be accountable with you. or even that looking at going to your spiritual leaders. Mine were very instrumental in my journey. So either going to them and having somebody that say, hey, this is what you came to us and said you wanted to do.
Right.
So now I'm gonna hold you accountable. How is that process going for you? Are you really doing the work?
Right.
That's what the practical steps look like for me. And then granted, I still do it because I'm not, like I said, I'm still striving and I still have my shortcomings. And even in this season now in my life, I'm just like, whew, God, you're gonna have to carry me through this one because this is hard for me. I've never even experienced this level of hurt and disappointment and understanding what this looks like and how to navigate as an adult.
Right.
That's hard. So that's what the steps look like for me. But coming from your standpoint, because you, what does this look like, faith and practical steps look like for you?
So you're right. The alone time is really important, but before that alone time, people have to acknowledge that there's work to be done, right? You've heard me say, and I probably say it every episode, right, that the first step to recovery is admitting that you have a problem. You cannot confront and conquer what you won't acknowledge. So the first thing you have to do is look in the mirror and be like, you know what? Is the condition of my life what I want it to be? Can I honestly say that I love the life that I'm living? And if the answer to that is no, if you realize that you have more discontentment in your life than you have joy and peace and happiness and fulfillment, then you've got to make some acknowledgement. And then after you make that acknowledgement, you have to be willing to take the time to really get to know yourself for who you really are. Understand what makes you think, feel, function, and navigate life the way that you do. And then you can begin to put systems and measures in place, because remember I said, in order to modify your behavior, you have to have an identity shift. All of these clinical terms, all of this maladaptive behavior aligns with how you identify. When you identify yourself as a healthier, more whole version of yourself, your behavior will follow, right? And those are the practical steps. And take the time to humble yourself and acknowledge and admit and seek help. If you had all of the answers, you would already be living that life. You would already be walking in that version of yourself. So give someone a chance, a neutral party, a therapist, a life coach, a pastor, a mentor. Give someone a chance that has the ability to share with you what they see in a constructive way, right? In a constructive way. We like to call them partners in believing. Right? Have a circle of people that you're connected to that are going to be honest with you and that can help you to evolve into that stronger, healthier, better version of yourself. And then, what we said in the very beginning of this episode, then you now have an anchor that says, wait a minute, does this decision, does this behavior align with how I want to define my dash? And if it doesn't, why are you doing it? And then the last thing is sort of like a side note. I don't ever tell people to pursue perfection, pursue greatness and excellence, because you're never going to be perfect. You're never. It's like you said, it's not until we go on to the next life, whatever that is for whomever, that you're going to be blemish free, right? In this life, there's always going to be something for you to work on. So pursue greatness and excellence. Pursue a stronger, healthier, better version of yourself. Wake up tomorrow with it purposed in your heart that you're going to be a better version of yourself than you were today.
That's a great tool, and that's why I take every day. And you know, now, and just like I said, this season of my life, I just sort of like find the blessing in every day. Finding what can I be better at in every day. Well, I missed it today, but thankful. All grace and thanks to God that I'm here today and I can make it better. I can make it right. I can change it. I can do this.
Can make better choices today.
And it's just so important that you take that mentality, because if you always wake up like, oh, and I had this moment, like I said, I have to be real. I used to wake up being that like, oh, this is wrong. This is wrong. If there's no joy in that. Always finding the wrong thing in life. But once you look at like, okay, I'm grateful that I have another opportunity. And I'm grateful that my bishop gave me this tool. He said, find the blessing in every day. Every day it has made a difference. And I've been doing it consistently. I said, you know what? I missed it yesterday.
Wake up more grateful
Grateful
today than you were yesterday.
And now
Yeah.
I'm here today. I said, now we can fix it. We could get it right. But thank you so much, Dr. Pitts, for just coming and just,
I love these conversations.
I love our
being here.
time together. It has
Yes.
been so beneficial. And we, like I
Yes.
said, keeping it honest of Women's Month. But like I said, not just women can take these, what we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely.
Men
Men
can
can use
do
it.
it too. Like,
Sure
this
can.
is for everybody. I mean, we're just focusing on the struggles that women go through so that way we can be better women. But this is for men too.
They have these same struggles,
Listen.
and now you have some tips as to how to support your partner, your sister, your girlfriend, your cousin, your mama, and them, you know, whoever, but also recognizing that these tips that we've shared today are applicable in men's lives too. Just put them in gender-specific context, but they are applicable.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for everyone who's tuned in. Make sure you comment on my Instagram and on my YouTube. My Instagram is at The Real Makayla and my YouTube as The Real One TV. Tune in every other Wednesday to Mav Media to see the sneak peek, but also make sure you tune in on my YouTube. Make sure you have your post notifications turned on so you don't miss any video, any conversation that me and Dr. Lauren Pitts Bounds have been having. Thank you all, and we'll see you on the next Healing Reflections.